I still remember the exact moment everything changed. The rich burgundy liquid seemed to move in slow motion as it flew from my daughter's glass, splashing across my white dress shirt and splattering onto my face. The Christmas tree lights reflected in each droplet, making it look like she'd thrown liquid rubies at me. "You ruined everything!" Amanda screamed, her voice cracking with emotion, mascara already starting to streak down her flushed cheeks. 20 pairs of eyes turned to stare. The Christmas music playing in the background suddenly felt absurdly cheerful against the heavy silence that fell over our family gathering. I just smiled. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. My name is Robert Mitchell, and until that Christmas Eve, I thought I knew what family meant. I'd spent 58 years building what I believed was a solid foundation, a successful business, a comfortable home in Portland, and 2 children I would have died for. My son Michael had always been the steady one, following in my footsteps in both temperament and career choice. Amanda, my daughter, was the family firecracker, brilliant, passionate, and complicated. I'd raised them alone after their mother Sarah died of breast cancer when the kids were teenagers. It wasn't easy, especially with Amanda. She was 15 when Sarah passed, that delicate age when a girl needs her mother most. I tried to fill both roles, but there were gaps I couldn't bridge, conversations I couldn't have, emotions I couldn't navigate. While Michael seemed to process his grief in predictable stages, Amanda's pain transformed into something volatile and unpredictable. By the time she left for college, our relationship had settled into something that resembled peace. Not the close bond I'd hoped for, but at least we could share a meal without argument. She studied psychology at Berkeley, met a man named Jason who seemed to balance her intensity with his calm demeanor, and eventually moved back to Portland, where they bought a house just 20 minutes from mine. I thought we'd turned a corner. Family dinners became regular again. She asked for my advice on home renovations. When they announced they were expecting their first child, Amanda hugged me with genuine warmth for the first time in years. My granddaughter Emily was born on a rainy Tuesday in April. The moment I held her, something in my chest unlocked. Here was a second chance, not to replace what I'd lost with Amanda, but to be part of something beautiful from the beginning. I promised myself I would be the best grandfather any child could ask for. And for 5 years I was. I babysit every Thursday. I built Emily a treehouse in my backyard. I started a college fund the day she was born and added to it religiously every month. When Amanda and Jason bought a bigger house in a better school district, I offered to help with the down payment. They accepted, though Amanda insisted it was a loan she would repay. The trouble began, strangely enough, with my retirement. After 35 years running Mitchell Construction, I was ready to step back. Michael had been gradually taking over operations for years, and the transition was smooth. I sold my ownership stake for a comfortable sum that would ensure I could enjoy my golden years without financial worry. What I hadn't anticipated was how Amanda would react to my newfound freedom and financial security. "Dad's loaded now," I overheard her telling Jason one Sunday afternoon while I was playing with Emily in the garden. "We should talk to him about paying off our mortgage. It's not like he needs all that money." That conversation was the first drop in what would become a flood. Requests for financial help became more frequent. Private school tuition for Emily, a new car for Jason, a kitchen renovation that somehow ballooned from $30,000 to $75,000. Each time, Amanda framed it as something temporary, something she'd pay back eventually. I wanted to help. That's what fathers do, right? But something about the entitlement in her tone made me uneasy. There was no gratitude, only expectation. When I suggested that perhaps they should consider more affordable options, Amanda's response was instant and cutting. "Wow, Dad, I guess your precious money means more to you than your only granddaughter's education." The guilt trip worked. It always did. I wrote the checks, smiling as I handed them over, telling myself it was an investment in my family's happiness. Until the Christmas that changed everything. Amanda and Jason had decided to host the family Christmas Eve gathering for the first time. Their newly renovated home, paid for largely by me, was decorated like something from a magazine. Professional-grade lighting adorned every eave, a 12-foot Fraser fir dominated their living room, and catered appetizers circulated on silver trays, carried by hired servers. "Quite the spread," my brother Tom whispered, as we stood by the fireplace nursing our drinks. "Must have cost a fortune." I nodded, trying not to think about exactly how much of that fortune had come from my retirement account. Dinner was a formal affair, fine china, crystal glasses, and a seating arrangement that placed me at the opposite end of the table from Emily. When I mentioned this to Amanda, she brushed me off. "The adults need to catch up, Dad. Emily's fine at the kids' table." Throughout dinner, I couldn't help noticing how Amanda kept refilling her wine glass. By the time dessert was served, her cheeks were flushed and her laugh had grown too loud. Jason kept shooting her warning glances that she ignored. The tension finally broke when gift opening began. I'd spent weeks searching for the perfect present for Emily, a handcrafted dollhouse that was an exact replica of my old family home, the one where Amanda had grown up. I'd commissioned it from a master woodworker, complete with tiny furniture and working lights. When Emily unwrapped it, her face lit up. "It's our old house," she exclaimed, recognizing it from photos. "Look, Mommy, it has Grandpa's workshop and everything." Amanda's expression darkened. "That's nice, Dad. But we actually already got Emily a dollhouse, the woodland fairy mansion from American Girl. It was on her wish list." Before I could respond, Emily piped up, "But I love Grandpa's house. It's like the one in the pictures where you grew up." "That house is gone now, sweetie," Amanda said sharply. "We sold it after Grandma died, remember? This is just a copy." Just a copy. The house where I'd raised her, the home where I'd held her mother's hand through chemo treatments. The place where I'd taught Amanda to ride a bike, where I'd consoled her through her first heartbreak, where I'd celebrated her college acceptance. Just a copy. I felt something shift inside me, a tectonic movement of emotion I'd been suppressing for years. But before I could speak, Amanda stood up, wine glass in hand. "Actually, since we're all here, Jason and I have an announcement." She smiled brightly, though her eyes remained cold. "We've decided to move to Seattle. Jason's been offered an amazing position at a tech company there, and they're even helping with relocation costs." The room erupted in surprised congratulations. Michael caught my eye across the table, his expression concerned. He knew what this meant. Emily would be 3 hours away, my Thursday babysitting tradition gone, the treehouse in my backyard empty. "When did this happen?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "We've been discussing it for months," Jason said, looking uncomfortable. "The offer just came through last week." Months. They'd been planning this for months and hadn't thought to mention it to me. "What about the house?" I asked. "The one I helped you buy? The kitchen I paid to renovate?" Amanda's smile faltered. "We'll sell it, obviously. The market's great right now. And my loan. The money I gave you for the down payment." The room had gone quiet again. Family members shifted awkwardly in their seats, suddenly very interested in their dessert plates. "Dad," Amanda hissed, "we can discuss finances later. This isn't the time." "When would be a good time?" I pressed. "Before or after you move 3 hours away with my granddaughter?" Jason cleared his throat. "Robert, we appreciate everything you've done, but this is a career opportunity I can't pass up." "I understand that," I said, turning to him. "What I don't understand is why I'm hearing about it now, in front of everyone, instead of in a private conversation weeks ago." Amanda's face hardened. "Because we knew you'd react like this, making it all about you, trying to make us feel guilty for wanting something better for our family." "Better than what?" I asked quietly. "A home I helped you buy, a neighborhood I helped you afford, a life where your daughter has her grandfather nearby?" "Yes," Amanda snapped, standing up so quickly her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Better than living in your shadow, better than owing you for everything, better than having you lord your financial help over us every chance you get." The room fell silent. Even Emily had stopped playing with her new dollhouse, her small face crumpled in confusion. "Is that what you think I've been doing?" I asked, genuinely stunned. "Lording it over you? What else would you call it?" She gestured wildly around the room. "Coming here and questioning our decisions in front of everyone? Making snide comments about the house and the kitchen?" I stood up slowly, feeling every one of my 58 years. "Amanda, I've given you over $300,000 in the past 5 years. Money you said was loans, but have never made a single payment toward. I've never asked for anything in return, except to be part of your lives." "See," she nearly shouted, "there it is! The accountant father tallying up every penny he spent on his ungrateful daughter." That's when it happened. In her agitation, Amanda's hand jerked and her wineglass tipped. The burgundy liquid arced through the air and landed squarely on my chest, soaking through my white dress shirt instantly. "You ruined everything," she screamed, her voice cracking with emotion, mascara already starting to streak down her flushed cheeks. 20 pairs of eyes turned to stare. The Christmas music playing in the background suddenly felt absurdly cheerful against the heavy silence that fell over our family gathering. I just smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It wasn't even a resigned one. It was the smile of a man who finally sees the truth with perfect clarity. "No, Amanda," I said softly, dabbing at my shirt with a napkin. "I didn't ruin anything. I just finally understand what I've been to you all these years." "Dad," she started, her anger giving way to something like panic. "A bank," I continued. "A convenient source of funding with no interest rate and no real expectation of repayment. Not a father, not a grandfather. Just a financial resource you've been afraid to lose access to." "That's not fair," she protested, but her voice had lost its conviction. "Isn't it?" I looked around the table at my extended family, all witnesses to this painful revelation. $300,000, Amanda. That's what I've given you since Emily was born. Money for your house, money for your car, money for Emily's school, money for this kitchen. I gestured around the room. And now you're moving to Seattle. Were you planning to tell me before or after you asked me to help with moving expenses? Jason stood up, placing a restraining hand on Amanda's arm. "Robert, you're upset. Let's all take a breath." "I'm not upset, Jason. I'm awake." I set down my napkin and straightened my wine-soaked tie. "And I've made a decision." The room seemed to hold its collective breath. "I'm cutting you off." Amanda's face went white. "What?" "No more money. Not a dime. The $300,000 you already have, consider it a parting gift." "You can't do that," she sputtered. "What about Emily? Your own granddaughter?" I looked at my beautiful granddaughter, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. My heart broke for her, caught in the middle of adult greed and resentment. "Emily will always have my love. But you and Jason are adults, successful professionals with good incomes. It's time you lived within your means instead of counting on your father's retirement to fund your lifestyle." "Dad, you're being ridiculous," Amanda said, her voice rising again. "You're punishing us because I accidentally spilled wine on you." "No, Amanda, I'm setting a boundary because I accidentally raised a daughter who values my wallet more than my presence in her life." The words hung in the air like shards of glass. I saw them cut into Amanda, saw the moment when anger transformed into hurt, and then, most surprisingly, into shame. Before she could respond, I turned to the table. "I apologize to everyone for this uncomfortable moment. Please enjoy the rest of your evening." Then I walked out, leaving behind my wine-stained shirt, my shocked family, and 20 years of financial manipulation I had been too blind to see. Outside, the December air felt cleansing against my face. Christmas lights twinkled along the street, and somewhere I could hear carolers singing "Silent Night." The irony wasn't lost on me. I got into my car but didn't start it immediately. Instead, I sat in the darkness, processing what had just happened. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened. The truth, painful as it was, had set me free. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "You okay? Want me to come over later?" I typed back, "I'm fine. Better than I've been in years." Another buzz. "Amanda, I can't believe you embarrassed me like that, in front of everyone. We need to talk." I didn't respond. There would be time for conversations later, once the wine had worn off, and the reality of my decision had sunk in. For now, I needed space to breathe. As I drove home through the quiet streets of Portland, I thought about the journey ahead. Amanda and Jason would move to Seattle, probably sooner now that my financial support was gone. Emily would grow up with less contact with her grandfather. That part hurt the most, but perhaps there was a chance for healing too. Perhaps without money complicating our relationship, Amanda and I could find our way back to something authentic. Perhaps in setting this boundary, I was giving us both a chance at real connection. When I reached my house, modest compared to Amanda's but paid for and truly mine, I poured myself a glass of bourbon and stood by the window, looking out at the Christmas lights blinking in my yard. The treehouse I'd built for Emily stood silhouetted against the night sky, empty now but full of memories. My phone buzzed again. I expected another angry text from Amanda, but instead it was Emily using her mother's phone. "Grandpa, are you mad at us? Will you still come see me when we move?" Tears pricked at my eyes as I typed back, "I'm not mad at you, sweetheart. I could never be mad at you, and I will always come see you wherever you are." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "I love you, Grandpa. I'm sorry Mommy spilled wine on you." "I love you too, Emily. More than all the stars in the sky." I set down my phone and took a sip of bourbon, feeling its warmth spread through my chest. The night hadn't gone as planned, but perhaps it had gone exactly as needed. Sometimes, the most important gift we can give ourselves is the courage to see the truth, even when it comes disguised as spilled wine and angry words. And sometimes the only appropriate response to having your illusions shattered is to smile, walk away, and begin again with clear eyes and an unburdened heart. That Christmas Eve changed everything between Amanda and me. The months that followed were difficult. Angry phone calls, tearful accusations, and eventually a strained silence as they packed up and moved to Seattle as planned. Emily was my lifeline during that time. We video called 3 times a week, and I drove to Seattle once a month to spend weekends with her. Amanda remained cold during these visits, but she didn't prevent them. Perhaps she recognized that her daughter needed her grandfather, or perhaps she was simply biding her time, waiting for me to relent and open my checkbook again. I didn't. Instead, I redirected the money I had been giving them into a trust for Emily that could only be accessed for her education. I volunteered at a local community center teaching woodworking to kids. I joined a grief support group, not for Sarah this time, but for the relationship with my daughter that I had lost. The breakthrough came unexpectedly, almost a year after that fateful Christmas. I was in Seattle for one of my weekend visits with Emily when Amanda asked if we could talk alone. We sat in a coffee shop while Jason took Emily to the park. Amanda looked tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that comes from fighting battles on multiple fronts. "We're struggling," she admitted, staring into her untouched latte. "The cost of living here is higher than we expected. Jason's job isn't working out the way he hoped." I nodded but said nothing. "Dad, I'm not asking for money," she continued as if reading my thoughts. "That's not why I wanted to talk." "Then why did you?" She took a deep breath. "To apologize. What I said last Christmas, what I did, it wasn't just the wine talking. I've been unfair to you for years." The words seemed to cost her physically. Amanda had never been good at admitting fault. "When Mom died," she continued, "I was so angry. At the cancer, at the world, at her for leaving, but mostly at you." "Me?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Why?" "Because you were still here. Because you tried to step in and be both parents. Because you couldn't fix it, couldn't bring her back." She wiped at a tear. "It wasn't rational. I know that now, but teenage grief rarely is. I reached across the table and took her hand. It felt small and vulnerable in mine, just as it had when she was a child. I didn't know, I said softly. I never let you know. And then it became a pattern, keeping you at arm's length, taking what you offered, but never letting you get too close. She looked up, her eyes wet, using your guilt about Mom to manipulate you financially. The honesty of it knocked the breath from my lungs. Amanda, please, let me finish. This past year without your support has been the hardest of my adult life, but it's also been clarifying. Jason and I have had to make real choices, set priorities, learn to live within our means. And I've had to face some uncomfortable truths about myself, such as that I've been using money as a substitute for dealing with my feelings about Mom, that I've been punishing you for surviving when she didn't, that I've been teaching Emily that love and money are the same thing. She squeezed my hand. I don't want to be that person anymore, Dad. We talked for hours that day, really talked, in a way we hadn't since before Sarah died, about grief and anger and expectations, about the weight of single parenthood and the terror of making mistakes, about money and what it can and cannot buy. When we finally joined Jason and Emily at the park, something had shifted between us, not healed completely. That would take more time and work from both of us, but a door had opened that had been closed for 20 years. That night, as I prepared to drive back to my hotel, Amanda handed me a small package. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a new white dress shirt, crisp and perfectly folded. "To replace the one I ruined," she said with a small smile. "And to remind us both that some stains don't have to be permanent." I hugged her then, this complicated, wounded, resilient daughter of mine, and for the first time in years, she hugged me back without reservation. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. Patterns established over decades don't change overnight. But as I drove back to Portland the next day, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel again. Hope. Sometimes it takes a glass of spilled wine to show us what we've been drowning in all along. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can do when faced with painful truth is simply smile, walk away, and give ourselves and others the chance to begin again. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, just click on the box on the screen. Thank you so much for listening.